of 8, and the Attorney General says he does have a desire to see persons who have committed wrongs go to jail. We talked about that in some detail this morning during the news review. Mawana Egbeta still in the studios. Very shortly we'll go on a quick break, and then when we come back we'll sink our teeth into the matters proper. But Mawana, listening there to the voice of the Attorney General again, are you reassured as a fellow Ghanaian that we are on the right track?
On the right track, yes, even though there will be more details that suggest that in some of the nollie prosequires that we filed, yes, the AG doesn't have to explain to us, but I think could possibly set a bad precedent. I'm tending to lean more towards the argument as it's been made by not just a minority, but by a good number of individuals. Yes, recoveries are good, and that's on the Dr. Dufo case. Yes, recoveries are good, but if we're to go down into the numbers, then what we are recovering could pretty much be 10% thereabout, because I've been reading all throughout last night up until this morning, and it suggests that there's a long way to go in terms of how much we can recover and even what it is that we can recover, because when he issued the initial release he said 60%.
That's right.
We haven't recovered 60% yet. There's a plan to recover 60%
over a period of time.
Over a period of time.
It's not instant.
It's not instant.
Got it.
So there's a plan to recover 60% over a period of time. There are a number of questions that have come up with the fact that this was outside of the plea bargain. He answered that. And then there are those like Bright Simmons who are already asking very difficult questions of the Attorney General and the quoted sums with which we're going into this entire negotiations with. Because to start off with, and you mentioned we'll go on a break, and so maybe when we return from the break, but there was an initial extension of sums towards the bank by the central bank, that's the Bank of Ghana, in excess of some 2.8 billion. If we're recovering 2 billion, that doesn't even meet the threshold of what the BOG extended to the bank. And so, yes, it's good that we're recovering. Maybe on the bright side, an argument we can make is that we're starting off.
Okay.
And so we're starting off in the recoveries. And so let's use this as a base point, because for everything that is perfect elsewhere, it started off somewhere. Might not have been the best of start, but it was built upon. If this is the instance of we're starting the recoveries and this doesn't look perfect, because it doesn't, and we will build upon this and subsequently we will get better in terms of nailing people and getting the recoveries, then, well, maybe we'll cut them some slack. But if this is the start of, let's find a way around this and then we recover some, then we could have a huge problem on our hands. I think on oral we've spoken to a great length that it will take time. That will take time. Just that from all of the good people who called us this morning, it does appear it is a big deal. It is a big deal. It is a big deal.
Well, the minority is threatening to go to court if the AG does not reverse this decision.
They will be thrown out. That we can say confidently, because, like I said yesterday, following that press conference, I've been having conversations with different individuals and all of that, and it suggests that a nolle prosequi as filed by the Attorney General cannot be contested in court. The Supreme Court, there's a ruling of the Supreme Court on that. I'll try and pull up the specific reasoning from the court and what case it was. But that's the suggestion based on what it is that I've been learning about over the last few hours. And so then, really, what will be their basis upon which they'll be going to court? Because when the Attorney General, the AG says, I'm discontinuing this case, you can't drag them to a court over why they are discontinuing the case. In fact, the determination of the court says they are not even at liberty to explain to you at all.
They don't really have to. So this interesting precedent set by the AG, we're hoping will continue, because really he didn't have to tell us why he decided to discontinue. He has
zero reasons to explain to us why he decided to discontinue cases. And so what will be the basis if you say you're going to court? really. There's a big question that must be asked.
Fantastic. 14 after 8. And we certainly have the men, Eric, Mauna, Egbeta, in the studios with us this morning on 3FM Sunrise on 3FM 92.7. Let's do it this way. We'll go on a quick break. When we come back, we'll also hear from the minority what they had to say at that presser. It's the state versus Kwabena for the minority firing back after the AG justified dropping the case. We'll also be speaking with our guests this morning and putting some more flesh on the bones. I do encourage you to follow us on all of the socials. You can find us on X, on Facebook, also on Instagram. Don't go too far. We will be right back. It's still the best breakfast show in all of the universe.
3FM 92.7 Urban Lifestyle Radio Station.
Miji, affordable cooking oil is everything to me and my family. Sure, when I discovered that Frytol sachets come in different sizes, are affordable, and can be used to refill my original Frytol bottles, I switched fast from these Bubi Mame oils for the frying of my buffets and for cooking all my favorite meals.
Switch to Frytol sachets, your trusted and convenient cooking oil for all your Frytol bottle refills. You deserve a life of goodness. This advert is FDA approved.
Always busy on the go. Tap the app, you're good to go. Big dreams, little time. There's a boat for you to ride. Every single time, yeah. Morning rush to the late night ride. Work to home and gig to gig. Smooth and easy ride and vibe. Safety toolkit by your side. Use code Keep Moving 50 for 50% off your first 3 rides. Download the Bolt app now. Make moves with phones.
For 11 years, we've taken you beyond borders. For 11 years, we've delivered memorable travel experiences. Now, it's time to see more and feel more with Adansi Travels at 12. 12 times the fun, 12 times the excitement. This August, explore the best of Europe, the UK, Dubai, Turkey, Singapore, Malaysia, Johannesburg, and beyond. With a team dedicated to your travel dreams, every journey is carefully crafted to leave you with unforgettable memories. Your journey with Adansi Travels is more than a trip. It's your chance to see more, feel more, and discover the world in a whole new way. Don't just stamp your passport, stamp it with incredible experiences. Call 0595 500 817 or 0531 008 550 or visit AdansiTravels.com to book your spot. Adansi at 12. See more, feel more.
3FM 92.7 Urban Lifestyle Radio Station.
Have since been wondering the legal basis for the entry of a nolli prosequi in the suit under reference by the learned Attorney General, and therefore we deem it appropriate to raise questions produced below for the Attorney General to answer for the benefit of the good people of Ghana. Number 1, has Dr. Dominic Akuritenga Aine in the past acted for Dr. Kwabena Duffuor and Unibank? In the case of the Republic versus Kwabena Duffuor and 7 others, is Dr. Aine now the Attorney General of the Republic of Ghana? The deputy referred to him as the Attorney General, and today he has granted a press conference acknowledging that he gave out the press release and he tries to justify why he entered the nolli prosequi. Ghanaians would want the Attorney General to explain to us in full the extent of conflict of interest using Dominic Aine as defense counsel and Dominic Aine as the Attorney General. This he failed in the press conference to tell Ghanaians that he had acted for Unibank and that he had acted for Dr. Kwabena Duffuor. So I think he owes us, as a country, a duty to explain to us why and the extent of this conflict of interest. The next question, does the Attorney General have the right, in law they say so motu, to free offenders at his own discretion, or is he obliged by law to prosecute and punish offenders in the country, especially in cases involving grave financial crimes against the state? Is he not legally and constitutionally obliged to ensure prosecution and punishment of those who commit economic crimes? What happened? What prevented the Attorney General from continuing with the prosecution of the Republic versus Kwabena Duffuor and 7 others, especially when the prosecution had far advanced its case before the court? I am told that they had called even the second prosecution witness. But today, the learned Attorney General tells us that on his own, he comes out and says that he negotiated with the parties without any court's involvement, and he intends to free. He has already entered a nolle prosequi, so he had freed them. The next question, or question 3, that I may want to ask. Transparency, as indicated in the press release, demands the learned Attorney General to explain to Ghanaians the principle of 60-40. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, once a nolle prosequi is entered by the Attorney General or the prosecution, we need not find out, and we don't need to find out questions. But he chooses to, if you read the press release, he chooses to justify why he had done that in the name of transparency. And that's why I say that transparency, as he had indicated in the press release, demands that he, the learned Attorney General, would explain to Ghanaians the principle of 60-40. If you're talking about 5.7 billion cedis and you tell us that you have retrieved 800,000 cedis, how can you say that that represents 60,000? And at any rate, is it a new policy directive, or when did this come into Ghana? When was this introduced into our criminal jurisprudence? What happens to the remaining 40%? To him, the Attorney General, today we heard him say that the 60-40, we can forget about the 40%, because he uses the proverbial theft of six goats, that if 2 or 4 are recovered, then he can allow the 2 to go off, meaning that the 40%, what the Attorney General in his jurisprudence is telling Ghanaians, that he would let go the 40%. That means the 40% should go with. The press release makes reference to 60% recovery threshold as a benchmark for reconsidering prosecutions. When was this policy introduced, and under what legal authority? Was this benchmark made public or debated in Parliament? Was it quietly introduced post-2024 to lower the standards of accountability? For a case involving 5.7 billion, can the Attorney General confirm that 1 billion has indeed been recovered and provide documented proof of the recovery? It is strange that the Attorney General is insisting that the amount of 800 million cedis recovered from Dr. Duffuor constitute 60%. How did the Attorney General review the amount from the 5.7 billion to 1.2 billion by a mere administrative fiat? The best we heard from him today is to make arrangements for the amount to be paid into public fund. One would have thought that he would wait until the amount, the recovery that he's talking about, would have been paid into the coffers of the state before thinking of nolle prosequi. Did the Attorney General consider Section 35 of the Courts Act, Act 459, in coming out with the 60-40 threshold? For the avoidance of doubt, Section 35 of Act 459 states, and for the lack of time, let me paraphrase, that if you want to make any restitution in such cases, you consider Section 35, which says that a person may plead to a lesser amount, and then you can then enter a nolle prosequi or file anything for the courts to consider. And if the person fails to do that, then the person could be punished. When I finish, I can give you a copy of what I'm holding, and then you can have the full text of Section 35 of the Courts Act. Why did the Attorney General turn a blind eye on the above institutional provision? Why would the Attorney General also look at the principle of the plea bargaining agreement? Under our section, that is the Criminal Procedure Act, Act 30, as amended by Act 1079, and I have a copy of the Plea Bargaining Act as amended. The Attorney General is telling us today that he did not even look at the Plea Bargaining Act. He didn't look at the Courts Act. He didn't look at the Plea Bargaining Act. The process was not supervised by any court. And what he is telling us is that he himself, on his own, so motu, got the parties and negotiated with them. Where did he get the figures from? When the prosecution had already started this prosecution, and I have the facts as presented by the prosecution, and those who are interested, I can give you copies, you make copies of that. And when we had done this, why did the Attorney General ignore this, and why didn't he tell us anything from this? Why was the accused person not convicted, even when he agreed to pay 60% in line with plea bargain agreement under Section 35 or under the plea bargaining agreement or under Section 35 of the Courts Act? For plea bargain to be accepted by the court, there are a lot of options opened to the parties, including conviction. However, any such process must be supervised by the court. In the learned Attorney General's nolle prosequi, he just enters. Nobody would have thought that we would ask him questions. But because he chooses to say that he wants to be transparent, we want him to be more transparent and answer the questions that we are asking him. So how the Attorney General allowed the accused person to walk free without a conviction and without supervision of the process by the court, that definitely cannot be under a plea bargain agreement, as he had himself said. And if it is not a plea bargain agreement, and it also doesn't come under Section 35 of the Courts Act, where did he get the 60%, and how much has he collected? Today he tells us that he's going to make arrangements for the monies that have been collected, about 800,000 to be paid into government coffers. The learned Attorney General has obviously forgotten the theories of prosecution and punishment. In fact, if he had thought of it, he would have appreciated that deterrence is one of the theories that we take into consideration in punishing people. Ladies and gentlemen, as we conclude, we would like to take this opportunity to call on all voices of conscience in our society, especially lawyers, judges, civil society, clergy, traditional leaders, and you, the press, to sit down and watch, and not to sit down and watch unconcerned, whilst the Attorney General, trusted with the office responsible to uphold the rule of law, on the contrary, pursue rather a destructive agenda to the detriment of the good people of Ghana. We therefore call upon any interested party, the Parliament of Ghana, particularly its Select Committee on Constitutional and Legal Affairs, to summon the Attorney General to answer these questions publicly. The Legal Council and Bar Association to investigate potential breaches of legal ethics and professional conduct. All patriotic Ghanaians to stand up against what appears to be the erosion of justice and the dangerous politicization of the prosecutorial process. Finally, may this press conference also serve as a formal notice to the Attorney General, Dr. Dominic Ayine, that if his decision is not reversed within a reasonable time, the minority will consider its options of proceeding to court to challenge its decision in its entirety. Let it be known that justice must not only be done, but it must be manifestly seen to be done. Thank you. If there are some questions, I will take it.
Where we they go?
9 minutes to the top of the hour, 9 a.m. And this is still 3FM Sunrise on 3FM 92.7. Let's come back in studio and expand the tentacles of this conversation. Eric Marina Egberts are still in the studio with me, but we're also joined by Dr. Ramsey Inusa, lead member, Movement for Change. Doc, hello, good morning. How are you doing?
Good morning, Helen.
Good to see you.
I'm not doing quite well, Helen.
Oh? The weather is affecting you?
Well, I would say the crisis up north in Boko. Something that has gotten out of hands and really needs serious attention and serious brains to see how best we can mitigate the crisis. I mean, as you quite know, there are about 3 students that were shot and killed. Innocent students.
Has the number gone up? I thought there were some 2 students. There are 3 of them.
There are 3 of them.
I see.
The 3 of them in total.
Goodness.
One from, I think, Boku Senior High School, and then 2 from...
Also one from Boku, then the 2 from Nalerigu.
Yeah, so you can see how this is spiraling out of control, and we really need to put some plugs on it and brakes on it to bring the issue to bear. The executive has the sole mandate to protect lives and properties, and we want to see them use that mandate judiciously so that we can bring all the perpetrators to book and we can bring an absolute resolution to the long-standing Boko conflict.
And thank you for bringing that up. Yesterday we had an extensive conversation about the issue, but we can't talk about it enough. I mean, how harrowing is it that our students get plucked out of their dorms, of their schools, and gunned down? It seems as though there is
act of terrorism.
There is no depth that some of these individuals will not go, or no, it's a new low. Very shocking indeed. Well, government says they've gone beyond peacekeeping. It's now about peace enforcement. And we also look to see what the efforts of Otumfuo Asantehene will also do for this conversation. And I know many of us are at our wits' end as to how do we actually solve this conflict that seems to have no resolution in sight. Boku needs that peace. There are people that live there, everyday people, everyday Ghanaians, just looking to realize their dreams like you and I. And can you imagine having curfews imposed, bullets flying over your home, the kind of terror, the kind of fear that fellow Ghanaians are going through? Very distressing indeed. And this morning, though, we have our attention on the discontinuation of the Dr. Dufour case. Yesterday, as part of the government accountability series, we heard from the Attorney General, also Minister for Justice, Dr. Dominic Ayine, giving us some updates on some of the cases that we know are in motion, but also wanting to highlight his decision to discontinue the case of the state v. Dr. Dufour. And if you're watching us on Facebook, you can follow along as well. The case amounts, the allegations that were leveled, and also what we're being told is a percentage that is going to be recovered by the state via an agreement between the Office of the Attorney General, as well as the accused in this instance. Doc, let me dive straight into it. Do you see this case withdrawal as a part of or a trend of selective justice or elite impunity? I'm putting it this way because, we've, tested the pulse, and that appears to be in some quarters the word on the street. Selective justice, elite impunity. What are your thoughts?
Well, can I say it is justice? Because as for power places all on a higher table. But justice serves all the same meal, right? And so I can say obviously that, Helen, it is power play, right? And for long in this country, we have had instances where the politically exposed, the elite, and well-connected individuals get out of the mill of justice quickly. And we've realized that the due processes leading to some right adjudication on matters are not abided by because some persons have influence or their party is in power. And we've seen that over and over again, But however, this is a bit tricky here, with this case in particular. I mean, lawyers have argued, I've listened to legal arguments about this, but, it's all about accountability, right? It's all about the resources that are needed for development that have ended up in the pockets of certain individuals, and they have mismanaged it and squandered it.
As a Ghanaian, does that make you angry?
It does. It does, Ellen. Because as I sit here today, I know very well that we have over 5,400 schools under trees. Our younger brothers and sisters in the villages are studying under trees, left to the mercies of the sun, the wind, and of course the rain. And these are our future leaders, future generation of this country. And education is not a privilege, but a right. And so if these resources could have been used to support our ability, right, to invest in adequate infrastructure to mitigate these issues that I'm talking about, it will serve the country well. Today, we have a lot of young people with greater dreams and ambitions. I mean, we've had the likes of Mark Zuckerberg, right, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, and all that. We have great innovators in our various campuses in Ghana. We have great dreamers, great entrepreneurs who just need some form of seed capital to turn the fortunes of this country. They don't have that.
That's right.
And we hear that such folks that are politically linked and have influence have squandered such money. It is worrying. And that is why if you go on the streets of Accra today, Ellen, and I dare you to declare this today and see as a test, you can declare that there is a flight waiting for each and every Ghanaian youth at Kotoka International Airport. you might not even find a dog on the street in this country.
Everybody will jackpot.
Everybody will jackpot. That is a new norm. That's the best way to have greener pastures is not in your own country. The best way to achieve your own dreams as a youthful Ghanaian is not in Ghana, but to acquire a passport and leave the shores of this country. That is a new normal in Ghana, and we really need to tackle that. And so with this issue, right, I have seen some disparity with the numbers, right? Others are saying it's 5.7 billion. Others are saying it's 2.1 billion. But be that as it may, right? You see, there's always the principle that I am serving the country in a capacity that would sort of ensure that I have the best for the people, in the interest of the people. I serve in the interest of the people. Now, if you look at this case, I have had the reasons why he gave the plea bargain. But lawyers have argued that he shouldn't have even told the public the reasons why he went into such an agreement.
Because he's under no obligation to do so.
Exactly. And the fact that it is 60%, so it's going to set a precedent that tomorrow, if Mr. A or Mr. B should be in power, right? And what do you call it? Mr. A or B should be in power and they should squander X amount of money. It means that it is known and it can be argued that the only way the person can get out of trouble, right, is to just pay 60% of the stolen money and then they'll set him free. That is a bad precedent we are setting for high public office holders.
What about that counter argument that there is no guarantee once you go to trial that you'll even recoup even 1%? Do we just have a thirst? Are we out for blood? Do we just simply want to see those in positions of power, be thrown behind bars, or are we concerned about recovering, the loot, as it were, or is this a twofold issue?
Ellen, in other jurisdictions, right, like China, for example, if you're caught in such scandal, I'm sorry, but you'll be executed. Yeah. When they apply their laws, and it serves as a deterrent to others. But in our case, we are setting a precedent that anytime you are politically exposed and you have issues of misappropriation of state funds, mismanagement, embezzlement, corruption, money laundering, you get away with it, right? And so we are setting a very dangerous precedent going forward, because I do not see why it should be 60%. It could have been 80%, or it could have been taking 100%, 90%, and then convicting the person. I'm sure that would have sounded well in the eyes of Ghanaian. But there's always a political lens to it. There's always a political interest to it. The political will to ensure that justice is served on behalf of the people of Ghana and in the interest of the people of Ghana. And so, yes, it is great. It is good that he has been able to recover some funds and assets, right, leading to the total figure. That is something that we need to commend him for. But the greater populace are calling for more justice and the conviction of such persons involved in such erroneous, I'll say, crime to the nation.
Doc, let me pause you there for a second and bring in another voice into the conversation. When we come back, I do want us to expand the tentacles of this issue about jail, accountability, and monies being paid. But Engineer Theophilus Jimega Esquire also is a private legal practitioner and also part of the NDC's legal team. Counsel, hello, good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing today?
I am doing wonderful. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us on the program, and we look forward to your perspectives on this issue. Of course, it's the biggest story this morning and has been since the announcement that the state will no longer be pursuing the Dr. Dufour case. Now we know that some monies will be recovered to the tune of 60%. What concrete assurance can government give that this structured recovery of some 2 billion Ghana cedis will actually be completed and on time, given Ghana's history of failed asset recovery deals?
Good morning, and good morning to your listeners, wherever they are. Throughout the world, there has not been, even if you are going on plea bargain, there had not been consistently 100% recovery or 100% gain when you are doing plea bargain or plea bargaining. So somewhere along the line, you cut your loss and say, this is good enough for me to take. Secondly, before you go for prosecution, you should be asking yourself, is this in public interest or national interest? Number two, would I be able to secure conviction? Mind you, these cases we are talking about have been in the court for at least 5 years. What sort of evidence have we got that we've not been able to secure conviction after 5 years? That you should be asking yourself, that is it a political case just for the sake of it? Now, how likely are we to secure conviction looking at the review of evidence, having taken office as the new Attorney General? Those are some of the things that will inform the new Attorney General to say, let us take what we can and move on. Now, we have history, as you said. You remember the Japa case?
Indeed.
Indeed. Where the company that supplied the ambulance said, we'll pay you what you are claiming to have lost for reputational damage for us, and you go ahead and terminate the trial. But we were intransigent. We said, no. We want to go on with the trial. The trial ended in the favor of the accused person. And how much did the government of Ghana get?
Zero.
What would have been better? To have taken those 2-point-something million euros and ended the trial then? And I believe if we had taken the 2-point-something million euros then, this same conversation would have been had. So let us look at, and remember, the AG is not saying we are going to get only 60%. He said before we start the negotiation, we must be talking about a minimum of 60%.
Okay.
So it is not an idea of give us 60% of whatever you have and keep the rest. You see, in negotiation, you must be looking at the best alternative one for you. Perhaps looking at the evidence they also have, they are not likely to secure conviction. And if they secure conviction and they are not able to get 100% of all that we needed, where are we going?
And what do you make of this argument that this sort of settlement rather incentivizes future financial misconduct by politically exposed persons? I'm sure it's one that you've heard being, shall I say, bandied about, that this incentive for those who might be politically exposed or those in positions of power to do as they please and then, hopefully cut a deal with the Attorney General or cut a deal with the state. How do you respond to that?
The idea that your name is being bandied about as a potentially criminal person is in itself a punishment. So, and currently, if you notice, when the names of Dr. Mustafa, etc., are being bandied about, that they are potentially involved in a criminal enterprise, you will notice that will take a hit on their image and their reputation. So one of the things about being named in a criminal case is also the idea that your name is being swelled. So it is not a pleasant thing to say, let me get my name mentioned. After that, then I go and enjoy a loot. That is far from the truth. So it is not an incentive for anybody to say, okay, let me get myself involved in a criminal enterprise, and at the end of the day, I'll give out 60% and I'll keep 40%. Remember, they will look at, it is not like a blanket arrangement that everybody who is involved in something should just offer 60% minimum and go away.
Right.
There are some the evidence will be so stark against the person that even 100% will not be enough. So let us put it into context. Let us remove the political lens. Then there is also, across the world, non-custodial or non-prison asset recovery cases that people, I'll give you an example. Andrea Agassi, he entered into, I think, a similar negotiation with the German prosecutors. Then they realized that he hid some accidents. Years later, they went for the assets. So these negotiations are not like give us 60% and keep the rest. And whenever you are involved in a criminal activity, be assured that you only pay 60% and go. That is not the case. It is case-by-case basis. You look at the evidence against the accused person, and you realize that if I go even for 100% plus, I'll still be satisfied. You will go for it. So that is the sort of thing the Attorney General is talking about. And he gave an example of the Beige Capital, that they offered 10 million. He declined. And now they went to Court of Appeal, and the Court of Appeal has ruled in their favor that they don't have any question to answer. Who loses? Ghana government.
Counsel, thank you for those thoughts, and do hold on the line for me. Let me also bring into the conversation Mr. Henry Haruna Asante, leading member, Movement for Change. Good morning, sir. Hope you're doing well.
Yeah.
I'm not too sure if we have a clear line. Let me try again. Hello, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Helen. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing this morning?
Extremely good.
It's good to hear your voice. Thank you for joining us on the program. I'm going to ask you the same question I asked Dr. Ramsey in studio. Do you see this case withdrawal as part of a trend of selective justice or elite impunity in Ghana? Weigh in on this for me.
Say very good morning, cherished viewers and listeners, and good morning, my sir. It's quite an issue. Looking at it.
Apologies, Henry. We cannot hear you. We'll attempt. The line is not too great. Yes, we'll hang up and then reconnect with you. I'm sure when we call back, we'll have a clearer feed. Okay, a little bit better. Okay, let's try and reconnect with Mr. Haruna Asante. But let me go back to counsel. Now, the minority is threatening court action over the AG's discontinuance of the prosecution of Dr. Dufour and others. How do you respond to that? There was a presser that happened yesterday, and they outlined what they will be doing as their next steps.
The truth of the matter is the Attorney General has the discretion to enter nolle prosequi. The Attorney General does not need to explain to even the court why it is entering nolle prosequi. And there have been instances where discretion has been used and people have challenged it in court and they've not been successful. One of them is Gregory Afoko's case. So in this instance, I think it's much ado about nothing. He's just trying to blow political air. That is it. If he has used when you have to use the discretionary power, you have to use it not capriciously. You have to use it fairly, and they have to prove that he has not used it fairly. He has been he has chosen to use it on some people and not to use it on others, discriminatory. But where is it? So this would be much ado about nothing. The Attorney General has that discretion to do it, and the history has been there. So this will only be a case where law students will learn in school. Beyond that, nothing will come out of it.
Thank you for that. Also, projecting into the future then, what specific steps will be taken if any part of this 2 billion Ghana cedis recovery plan is defaulted on?
You see, when you go for negotiation and you settle and you file it in court, it becomes a final judgment of the court. Nobody can appeal against it. So except maybe you enter into the negotiation under duress by fraud or by misrepresentation or something like that, or the negotiation you came into is against the law or against public policy. But once you go into a settlement, it becomes a final decision of the court and it's not appealable. So if they cannot get some of any of the money or the steps being taken to recover the money and are not being successful, I believe that in the agreement there could be a situation where if you fail, you are back to court and you are jailed, or if you feel these assets that we have identified will sell A, B, C assets of yours. Those will all be captured in the agreement. Remember Atuishan, ACN, when he couldn't pay the money after entering into agreement, he's in jail. So they will not have gone into an agreement with these people without safeguarding the interests of the country at large. I believe that, as the Attorney General said, anybody who is interested can approach and see the copies at the High Court themselves and appraise themselves. But it is clear, or let me make it clear, that once they go into such an agreement, they will be willing, or there will be clauses and terms in the agreement in case of default. What happens?
Now, from where you sit, and summarize your thoughts for me on this, what message does this decision send to future financial sector regulators and private bank owners facing collapse?
You see, let us start from the beginning. We all that we spent more than we have recovered from these banks. That is a fact. We spent more than we have recovered. So in future, we should be thinking whether it's in the interest of the country for us to collapse the banks at all, or to shore the banks up and ensure their viability and sustainability. We should be thinking about that. We should not take decisions. And mind you, there have been, even from Dr. Indum, from Prince Samwabin, all complaining that their banks were collapsed just for political reasons. So let us be guided by the past to say that in future, let the stringent measures be put in place so that we don't get to a state where the banks will collapse. Because the collapse of the financial institution affected all of us and affected the economy. So in future, when somebody is about to take Ghana government's money and invest in a private bank, then we should be guided by rules and regulations and steps and measures to say that if we reach this point, we are clawing back our money. Then we don't get to where we are at the moment. Because other than that, we will continue to pump money into private enterprises and end up going in court. And remember, they are doing both civil and criminal aspects. The criminal aspect, we might not get everything. The civil, we might get some. So let us be guided by the past to say, let us not go along that line again where we destroy people's banks and tomorrow we will not get anything out of it.
Council, thank you for your thoughts. Do hold on for me and let me come back in studio. Dr. Ramsey still with us on this matter of a discontinuation of the Dr. Dufour and others case. We talk about this idea that, Ghanaians are out for blood. We want persons to go to jail. From where you sit, what do you think is the best incentive for public officers, for those in positions of power, for those who are tasked with taking care of our money, making sure our money goes a long way, just expanding this conversation? Is it enough for monies to be recovered? What is the psychology behind this clamor for persons to go to jail? We sought to try and put some understanding behind that psyche. Is it the case that fellow Ghanaians feel so aggrieved by some of the actions of public officers, especially in the immediate past, that we want to see real punishment? We want to see some humiliation. Is that what it's going to take for people to act correctly?
Well, Helen, they say prevention is better than cure.
That's right.
And it is very important for us to have a governance system that has the right institutions and the structures to be able to fight corruption and mitigate the issues of mismanagement of state funds. And as you rightly know, over the years we had advocated for some form of constitutional reforms in tackling the fight against corruption. And we had argued that the office of the OSP has to be highly independent. And in place of the OSP, we need to further broaden the responsibility and creating an anti-corruption czar, right? To transform the OSP into an anti-corruption czar, which would have the sole mandate to tackle corruption in our various public polities. And we've also argued that the appointment of these persons should not be made by the executive, because of some form of political interference and manipulation, that in place of the executive, we have to introduce a bicameral parliamentary system, which will not be made up of state actors and political actors. And that bicameral parliamentary system will be made up of our traditional authorities, faith-based organizations, the media, CSOs, academia, right, trade unions, that would have the sole mandate, right, and legislative backing to appoint heads of various independent constitutional bodies, and including that of the OSP and even the AG. If that happens, right, nobody would stand on any platform to say that, well, it's the NDC government, and so they are favoring DS. People would also argue that, well, when lawyer Chachuji Kata was incarcerated, when there was change of government, he was relieved of such conviction, even though the Court of Appeal argued that there was some form of miscarriage of justice. And so we've seen these cases over and over again, right? And the people of Ghana who are paying taxes, who are in serious hardship, and there's a great disparity between our resource wealth and the current wealth of the people. According to the IEA, Ghana's total resource wealth, natural resource wealth, is about $12 trillion.
That's hefty.
$12 trillion, right? And we have people who have been given the sole responsibility to tap into these resources, right, and alleviate the suffering of the people of Ghana. But we are not seeing that. And we are always riddled with these kind of corruption cases and sagas all day long. How long can we hold this? That is why the people of Ghana are calling for tougher and harder and harsher punishment on persons that uphold to very, very critical offices in our public polity. Helen, so that we can be able to have the resources of this country managed purposely for the benefit of the people.
$12 trillion. Let me bring Council back into the conversation, Doc, and thank you for your thoughts on that. And Council, I want to talk about ORAL, Operation Recover or Lose. We know that it was a preparatory team put together by the president to lay the foundation for the prosecution of corruption cases. Have you heard this call for some more speed, and why do you think that is the case? Because we know that court cases can take some while, sometimes 2 years, 3 years on average, but the people of Ghana are asking to see some more speed. Would you say that the exercise is stalling, or that Ghanaians have to exercise some patience in this regard?
Before I proceed, let me make a quick correction. Your panelist in the studio said Chachuji Kata was released from prison because of after change of government. That is not true. Mr. Chachuji Kata was granted pardon by His Excellency President Kufuor. Meanwhile, he was still pursuing his conviction, his appeal, and he was successful at the appeal.
But so, I believe it was the case that he didn't accept that pardon, am I right?
Yeah, it was a case he didn't accept the pardon. Once you are even mentioning pardon, the pardon was not granted by the NDC government. That is what he sought to say, that it was change of government, that's why he was released. That is not true. That is not the case.
Noted, Council.
Yeah, so let's put that on record. Now, I personally had visited the Deputy Attorney General, and I've seen the caseload, the files on his desk on oral. They are quite huge. And I personally asked, what are we doing? Are we recruiting more prosecutors? Are we recalling some of the retired prosecutors so that they help to prosecute this? Indeed,
that's how big the caseload is?
Pardon?
Is that how big the caseload is?
Yes. So the files are plenty. This load is heavy. Yes. And he showed me and said, look at this, my brother, I need to read all this and we need to make determination. And I was like, what are you guys doing about it? You alone can. You see, if I visit even my town of Hohoi or my village near Hohoi, all I get to hear, people ask me is, when are you going to prosecute these guys?
When are they going to jail? What are we doing about everywhere? As you are walking in the town, people ask, even in Accra, the moment they identify you with the government, when are these people going to go to prison? When are they going to court? People are that expectant and people are that impatient about what to come out of oral.
That's right.
Because everybody has seen the rot, particularly within the last 8 years, that people cannot sit down. And there was a program held in one of the radio stations in Kumasi, and almost 90% of callers said, if GM only, His Excellency the President, only retrieves some of the loot and jail some people, he has done enough. You don't even need any other thing. So that is how much people are expecting this to, and the government is aware of the burden on them. And the Deputy AG assured me that we are doing all to get all these cases through. Remember, they have less than 4 years to prosecute all this and recover all the loot for us. So the work is that heavy on them that even I met a very senior lawyer in court one day and say, why don't you guys write to them and say, hey, we are all available, let them give the work to us. But they need to be careful that much as the harvest is rich, they don't introduce people into the harvest who also go into loot. They have to be careful. So it has not stalled. A lot of work is being done behind the scenes, and a lot of people will be recruited to prosecute some of these cases.
Well, that's something we, certainly look forward to. And from where we sit as well, these questions, they keep coming. And I'm not surprised that everywhere you go, you are being accosted and people want to know, when are we going to see some results? Because day after day, we're made privy to some of these scandals and your jaw can only but drop. But we know that the justice system has to, be thoroughly exhausted before persons are accused and officially, shall I say, given judgments and sentenced. I want to pick your thoughts quickly on one last topic and then we can let you go. The big push. The NPP says, well, this is our idea. We know governance is a continuum. Should it really matter? What are your thoughts?
Well, there were a number of things that, you remember when the free SHS came, NDC said it was our initiative. We wanted to do it progressively. When the health insurance came, NDC told them that we piloted it. But in the end, we are all looking at the success and the output. So yes, it could be your idea, but you don't have exclusive right to the idea. It could be your idea. You couldn't execute your idea. It remains an idea. It is like going to the exam room, coming out and say, 1 + 1. I knew it was 2, but it was in my mind. Nobody will enter your mind to mark that, to give you 2 and give you the correct marks. But the most important thing is that NDC has set up an agenda. NDC mentioned this in their manifesto. They didn't challenge it in NDC's manifesto. It is being rolled out. They shouldn't just say it is our idea. I heard recently that someone was even arguing that the gains we are getting in the economy is as a result of NPP's activities.
You disagree?
Something we are going to... Pardon?
I said you disagree?
Yes. When in 2017, they were shouting that the economy was growing. This was a government then who inherited IMF and all the goodwill. They forgot about that. They inherited IMF came out of it and took us back into IMF. But in 2017 up to 2019, they were touting it as their achievement. Nobody begrudged them. They didn't begrudge themselves. Even though people were saying, hey, hold on, the Imanis, etc., were saying, hold on. This was some foundation NDC laid. But they came back and said, no, it was our economic whiskey led by Dr. Mahmoud Baumia. So I disagree with them when they say that they have laid the foundation. We were just told recently that the goal for oil was not any goal for oil. It was goal for cash for oil. That was what we finally were told.
We're told it was a two-pronged approach, gold and cash for oil.
But they were never using two-pronged. You remember?
I recall.
They were never using two-pronged. They were only saying go for oil. It is only now that they are using two-pronged. In the coming days and weeks, we might hear three-pronged too. So let's discard that. Let's move on. The most important thing is we want to give Ghanaians the Ghana we all want. And we want Ghanaians to be happy and good at what they are enjoying. That is the basic thing we all should agree on. So let them wait. I didn't read anywhere in the last 8 years where MPP said that they are going to construct 10 kilometers of road in each constituency. I didn't see that anywhere. Now, I'll give you an example. The Eastern Corridor Road was started under Professor Mills and continued under His Excellency JM. When they came into power, it got stalled. From Asikuma to Hohwe, it's still the same way. From Hohwe to Jessica, it's still the same way. They made a few improvements somewhere. Beyond that, that is the end. So nobody here can say that this was our idea. It's your idea, still your idea on paper.
Certainly,
and that is all.
Thank you for your thoughts.
Leave it at that for a moment.
Most certainly. Thank you for your thoughts this morning. But finally, before I let you go, the Attorney General says that we should look forward to a rumble in the jungle. But we had to postpone that one for next week so that he could tell us exactly the ins and outs of the Dr. Dufour and others case. What do you know? What is this rumble in the jungle? I'm looking for an exclusive scoop. Do you have any intel on what we should be expecting?
What is going to happen is that there will be a lot of prosecutions in the coming days and coming weeks.
We look forward to that update then from the Attorney General. We're very grateful for your time, Counsel. And we've been speaking with Engineer Theophilus Kojo Jimega Jr., also private legal practitioner, a member of the NDC's comms team. We'll come back in studio, continue our conversation with Dr. Ramsey. Are you surprised by anything that Counsel had to say? He said that wherever he goes, people are asking, hey, when are we going to see some action? He says the caseload is really huge. We're told next week to look forward to some intel. The rumble in the jungle. I have my own intel, but I won't say too much. But I think we're supposed to strap up. Where are seatbelts for this one? Movement for Change. You are soon to become a party. What is your strategy when it comes to dealing with corruption? What have we not done well so far? And what would be your strong measure to finally see an end to this, because it is so disheartening, like you said, and you laid a fantastic foundation. 5,000 plus schools under trees. We have serious issues to contend with, and yet money I don't even know what to say.
It's just going down the drain.
Down the drain. And I link that even to my personal life. The decisions of our leaders, they affect me, my health, my psyche, my well-being, my future.
So, Helen, in terms of corruption, first and foremost, I think our laws would need to define corruption very well. The definition for corruption is quite ambiguous in our various laws. Secondly, is to rationalize and consolidate the various agencies that have overlapping mandates that fights corruption. We know that SRAJ fights corruption, YOCO fights corruption, OSP fights corruption, the NIB fights corruption, the police fights corruption. So in this case, you have multiplicity of tax when it comes to various state agencies doing the same thing, fighting corruption. We need to rationalize various regulations and laws into one holistic regulation that talks about corruption and how we deal about it. That's number one. Number two, whose mandate would it be to fight corruption, especially in our public administration? And that is why we are saying that in place of the OSP, we should have an anti-corruption czar, the overlord in terms of the fight against corruption. And then we would rationalize all various legislations and laws towards that body to fight corruption. So no other body will be made to fight corruption. And then we need to set up a specialized tribunal or a court that is mandated to deal with corrupt scandals and issues emanating from our public administration, right? It would expedite the processes, it would make it efficient, and indeed, who should also appoint such persons? We do not think that it should be from the executive, right? But rather, Ghana, in place of its current unicameral parliamentary system, should introduce a bicameral parliamentary system and get rid of all these political actors and state actors and give the powers to independent individuals and institutions to be able to elect, nominate, and approve the appointment of various heads of independent constitutional bodies, including that anti-corruption czar, so that they would now have oversight, including our parliament, right, and give them the necessary tools to be able to fight corruption in this country. If we do not achieve that, then I am sorry, it would always be the norm in terms of the way we fight corruption. It would always be partisan-based. You would always have political interference and manipulation, because at the end of the day, there's always a legal argument and a political argument. If it looks bad against a political party, political actors would always try, right, to make sure that they manipulate the cases in their favor so that the optics will not go against them.
Right.
That is politics, right? And if we really would put up such reforms in our public administration, right, and in our governance system, it will go a long way to solve the issues of corruption in this country.
I'm not sure if you had a chance to listen to the minorities press. I think that was playing as you walked in. Some 7 months in, how do you assess their performance in opposition? Are they keeping this government on its toes accurately, as every opposition should do? How do you rate it?
Well, Helen, charity begins at home. Charity begins at home. They have not finished settling issues in-house, right? They haven't finished settling issues in-house.
Doc, so because of that, they shouldn't keep government on its toes?
But again, I mean, he who comes, or he who seeks for equity must come with clean hands, right? We've had experience with their regime.
Indeed.
We've seen scandalous activities under their regime, right? We've seen issues of thefts, issues of galamsey, embezzlement, money laundering, nepotism, cronyism, right? And they didn't do anything about it. And if you go on the streets today, the Ghanaian society are saying that they will not take scripture lessons from a drinking bar. Unfortunately. But you see, the MPP, the current MPP, has lost its founding values and principles.
You say they've strayed far from their foundation.
Of course. That is why His Excellency, the former president, John Agyekum Kufuor, has come out on 2 occasions to raise issues of these concerns. When we started raising issues like this, we became enemies of some people in the party, right? Who had no influence or had nothing to do with the founding of the MPP. Some of us, our parents, our grandparents, sold whatever they could to finance the party, to support the party grow, right? And they all uphold to the founding values of the party. Today, look at the members that acquire certain important positions in the party. I mean, they don't even understand the philosophy and the ideals of the party. Look at how they've led Ghana into abyss when they had the chance to manage the economy, when they had the chance to change the fortunes of this country. Look at the debts that we were burdened by, right? When they said that they were going to take us from taxation to production. Industry was growing at a negative figure, negative 2.5%. Helen, the total youth unemployment was over 1.9 million, right? You, the journalists and the media, Ghana's press freedom index was the worst in 18 years. And you even look at even the confidence in our economy by investors. And according to the UN Trade and Conference report, right, Ghana's FDI declined at a 6-year all low under their regime, because we were losing investors to Ivory Coast, to Benin, to Togo, and the likes. And so for the MPP to re-emerge and act as if they are saints, please, I think that they should go back home to pacify themselves well. They should understand the principles and ideals of the party, look at what really went on wrong, repent, and I'm sure that if they do that, the Ghanaian society will begin to build confidence in their party.
Because that confidence will be crucial in what sort of influence they have on the populace.
Yeah.
If the confidence is completely lost, they could really be unearthing certain things or certain ills with this government. But because that confidence is so low, we might, turn a blind eye because of all the, some of the infractions and some of the happenings in the last 8 years that have, turned the everyday Ghanaian off. And that's a dangerous place to be.
But you shouldn't only rely on the MPP. That is why you have the Movement for Change.
Aha.
Right? That is why you have other political parties. And this is an opportunity for other political parties, the smaller ones, not to act sycophantic towards the incumbent government. Right? We've seen that over the years, that they've become proxies of the incumbent anytime they're in power. Right? We want to see a reform in our political landscape, that the opposition factions should ensure that there's accountability and checkmate every process and step of the current government.
We're waiting for your press conference. We've seen many press conferences from the biggest opposition party, Movement for Change. We need to see some of your press conferences.
We would. We are also, as the matter is still under investigation, we want to also unearth and gather the facts. And I'm sure that at the right time, you hear from our spokesperson.
Most certainly. And I was asking Council before he left us on the line, this idea of, I started this initiative. This is my idea. Have we lost our way? Or do we only just say that governance is a continuum just for just for saying its sake? The people of Ghana want development. We want to live well. Do we really care who started what? Why is that such a big thing for us? Nobody wants to share in the glory. When things go well, everybody says, I started it. And I mean, like Council said, he said, well, even the free SHS, the NDC said, well, we started it. Others say, we did it this way, we did it that way. What is going on?
Well, it's the politics of the day. What Ghanaians are concerned about, what Ghanaians care about is who really ensure that there was transformation and some form of great impact in their lives. That is what they care about. And that is how they will judge you anytime they go to the polls to vote. Right?
Right.
That is what we care about. It doesn't matter who started it. Who did it better? Who did it efficiently? Right? Who did it in a manner in which there was less mismanagement, there's less corruption, and there's value for money for the people of Ghana. That is what matters. And if they would argue on those bases, then indeed the argument will be interesting. But as to whether who started what, when, where, it's neither here nor there. That is not what we are concerned about. We are concerned about transformation, right? We are concerned about growth. We are concerned about a Ghana that would be for Ghanaians, a Ghana that would be fertile to nurture our dreams and aspirations, a Ghana that can be able to leapfrog, right, all the dreams of the yearning youth of this country. That is what we are concerned about. And so if a party or a leader comes into power and is able to achieve these things, kudos. That is what we will support. And that is why we are calling on the NDC, right, to take inspiration. We've seen that they've taken certain positive steps, right, inspired by the great transformational plan of Honorable Alan Kodo Martin.
Do you say that because yours was the first to come out?
Indeed so. And that's not only that, but in the history of our political landscape, I have never seen the MPP lose to the NDC and then the MPP flag bearer take his or her manifesto to the NDC and say, look, I've lost the election, this is my manifesto, but in the good faith and the good spirit that we want Ghana to move forward, right? We want Ghana to rise. Take this plan and see how best you can also take inspiration from it and implement.
That is what happened?
That is what happened.
How was it received?
It was received very well. President Mahama even joked about it, that he was going to copy the plans in there. He was going to steal the ideas. But I know that today, some of the ideas are being implemented. And I'm sure that if they take a serious look at the Great Transformational Plan, I'm sure that they will be able to transform this country. That is why you can see some serious macroeconomic stability this far.
Hey, Dr. Ramsey, so we're crediting that to Movement for Change?
Well, it's an inspiration.
Okay.
Yes, it's an inspiration, right? So, but indeed, we have the absolute knowledge and technicalities when it comes to realizing the Yellow Book. So,
I call it the Yellow Bible.
The Yellow Bible, indeed.
Yes. And then finally, let's talk money matters. Last Friday, we had the Honorable Dr. Kasia Latoforsen, Minister of Finance, give us that mid-year budget review, an account of how the last 6 months have gone and a projection into the future. The young ones are saying Honorable Ato is forcing. Do you agree with that? What would you say was the biggest takeaway? And if there are any improvements that the movement for change could encourage, what would that be?
Very well. I can say that there's some form of fiscal discipline. We have advocated that the public expenditure should not be more than 10% of our GDP. Government borrowing should not be more than 55% of our GDP. That our debt to GDP ratio should be about 55%. And I can see that our debt to GDP ratio is gradually decreasing. And so Honorable Atoforsen is indeed forcing.
You say he's forcing.
In this regard, you can see that the CD is quite appreciating against the dollar. We are hoping that going forward, they can look at how best they can hedge the exchange rates for certain strategic commodities imported into this country that are not currently manufactured locally here,
right?
That support our local industries. If they can hedge that exchange rate for them, it would support the stability when it comes to pricing and also the pass-on inflation effect with the depreciation and appreciation of our CD, if they can be able to look at that. The other aspect is that if you look at the current private sector environment, our SMEs are the major employers in this country. And if you look at the total capital flow to the SMEs, it's about 12%. Ghana's national liquidity flow to the SMEs is about 12%. If you look at the sub-Saharan African average, it's about 33%. And so we are not even closer to even our regional threshold. And so they need to reduce. We are calling on them to look at how best they can reduce our monetary policy rates, right? Reduce the interest and the lending rates for various banks so that our interest rates would reduce astronomically, even to a single-digit number, so that the ease of doing business and paying back loans.
That sounds like such just a wonderful fantasy.
Well, Helen, it should be, because you know, we are living in a global village. The world is highly globalized. It's very competitive.
Indeed.
If your financial institution is not giving you a very competitive interest rate and your competitors are getting it, especially in China where the enterprises borrow less than 1%, 5%, and here is about 30%, 35%.
Extremely high.
You cannot compete.
That's right.
And that is why the various factors of economic productivity in this country, except labor, is quite expensive. That is why we are losing a lot of industries to Togo and Ivory Coast. But I believe that if they're able to tackle or relook at the inflationary targeting framework from the central bank, it would go a long way to help our microeconomy.
Absolutely. I know that for the business community, that's one area that needs intense and swift action, because the exchange rate can be stabilized, inflation can drop, but if we don't see progress in that regard, then we're doing a lot of disservice to the business community.
You can have a jobless growth. At times, you can have very good GDP figures, but it's a jobless growth, and we've seen that under the MPP regime.
Time check. It is some 27 minutes past the hour of 9. We're wrapping up, or shall I say we've wrapped up on this conversation this morning, and we've been speaking with Dr. Ramsey Inusa, lead member, Movement for Change, soon to be party. How soon? I'm not so sure. We keep hearing
very soon. Very soon.
This sounds like Rumble in the Jungle. We were told soon.
Helen, it's not about the speed, it's about direction. So very soon.
It's not about the speed, it's about direction. Doc, always a pleasure to speak with you. Thank you so much for sharing your insights with us this morning. But don't go too far. We go on a quick break. When we come back, there's a lot more right here on 3FM Sunrise.